And I must say, that is the best introduction anyone's ever given me.
Oh, thank you. I wanted to start off and I wanted to give everyone a brief summary of what cryptocurrencies, what they are, because a lot of people are very confused about it. A lot of people don't know what it is. They're hearing a lot about it, like Bitcoin going, skyrocketing right now. And people are like, oh, should I be in this? Should I not be in this? What are all these other cryptocurrencies? And I just wanted you to just summarize what it is so people get an understanding of what this is used for.
Sure. Well, the confusion around it is all very understandable, in my opinion. I remember when I first encountered just the word Bitcoin in 2013. It wasn't until 7, 8 months later, after I had been educating myself online, watching tutorials, taking classes online, that I even had the slightest idea of what it all was. So technologically, what we're talking about at the most basic level is digital ledgers. And so each of these cryptocurrencies is its own digital ledger that is hosted on anything from, a terrible cryptocurrency would be hosted on only a few computers around the world. And I just mean terrible in that it would only take those few computers to go down for the ledger to be, wiped, gone. To anywhere from some of the larger cryptocurrencies, ledgers are hosted on several thousands of computers around the world. And so the basic way that they operate is that when you have your electronic wallet with a balance in it of any of these digital currencies, and you click, send 2 or 3 tokens, whatever, to another person's wallet, that sends a broadcast out to those hundreds or thousands of computers to update their ledger accordingly. And that's basically how they all work.
So this is all decentralized. That's what you're saying. It's on multiple computers or servers or wherever they're located, and there's many of them, and are more and more added every day.
In the good cryptocurrency networks, yes. In the ones that I don't think will last, which you may be surprised which ones I don't think will last, there are fewer of those actually over time.
Which one? I'm just going to ask you, which ones don't you think will last?
Any of the ones which don't pay their full nodes, a portion of the newly created coins. That currently includes Bitcoin. That currently includes Ethereum.
So you don't think they're going to last?
Unless they make changes to how the incentives work on their network, then no. And I mean, I'm not talking about, this year. I mean, they could go many years. But if they don't have incentives right, there's just, economics always wins. I think I've heard someone put it that way, in that what you subsidize, you'll get more of. And what you tax, you'll get less of. So if the copies of these ledgers are not subsidized, there will be less of them over time. And one of the reasons I chose to join Dash, by the way, is that they do subsidize their full nodes. And so we are getting more full nodes all the time.
So when you say these nodes, these are the computer systems that do the mining?
So a miner does run a full node, yes. And then what a lot of people don't know about cryptocurrencies is that there aren't always that many mining nodes. The more, the hundreds and the thousands, those are actually non-mining nodes. And their primary role is simply to relay transactions as well as keep an updated copy of the ledger, to be online 24/7. And so it's those nodes in most cryptocurrencies which are unsubsidized. And the gigabyte and potentially even terabyte size of these ledgers is only growing all of the time. And so those who only run full nodes as volunteers are naturally eventually their priced out of the market.
So I just want to make this clear that when we're talking about coins, these are not physical coins, because a lot of people hear the word coin and they think, oh, they're just creating these coins. And of course, if you see pictures of like Bitcoin and things like that, you see pictures of coins. These are not coins. I guess what the confusion is with a lot of individuals, and a lot of people write into me and they ask me these questions, where does the value come from?
Sure. Well, currently, the value of all of these tokens, I would say, is almost entirely speculative in that no one is holding them because they are currently able to pay, their car payment with them, or their mortgage, or their groceries, or, their school tuition, but rather people with some disposable income are currently casting bets on that they believe that one or more of these cryptocurrencies will one day be useful for as actual money. Now, in terms of can you spend any of them anywhere? Well, yes, of course you can. The one that's gotten the most traction thus far, because it came first, of course, is Bitcoin. And I believe that there are several thousand merchants around the world who do accept it as payment. And so when you say, where does its value come from? Yes, to an extent, it might be reasonable to hold Bitcoin to say, spend it at a few of these merchants. But on the whole, it's speculative. And it's interesting that you ask me this question now, Dave, because the cryptosphere, as I like to call it, as a whole, is going insane with speculation right now. I mean, if you looked at the chart for the total market capitalization of all cryptocurrencies from merely 30 days ago compared to today, it is like beyond hockey stick. It's almost straight up and down. It's insane. And it was only this morning that some of them have started to come down, started to lose 10, even 15% of the value that they had yesterday. So it'll be very interesting to see if we reached the peak of mania yesterday and now we're entering a correction, or if the mania will continue.
So why do you think the cryptocurrency market is just surging right now? What's your take on it?
When did this start? I mean, it feels like it only started something like 2 weeks ago. And it might have been kicked off with this sort of announcement that came maybe like a week or a week and a half ago, that as a series of banks in Japan, I believe, are intending to use one particular cryptocurrency, which I must say I don't know that much about. I have found it rather difficult to learn very much about it because I'm not sure it actually functions like the rest of these cryptocurrencies do, and that I'm not actually sure it's decentralized. But it calls itself Ripple. It's a company called Ripple, and they're basically aiming to displace the company Swift that makes the back end settlements between banks. And so there was a sort of announcement about a week and a half ago that these various banks in Japan intend to use Ripple either in tandem with Swift or, maybe as a way to sort of phase out Swift. And so that sent Ripple's value, like 10 times what it was over the course of just, like a few days. And then I think that maybe the reason that the mania spilled over into the rest of the cryptosphere is maybe some people were cashing out their Ripple and putting it into other coins. Or maybe just that announcement alone caught the attention of other, institutional big moneyed investors around the world. And so to wrap up the point on Ripple here, I personally, so if this technology is utilized to its fullest, there actually is not a need for a bank, because the individual wallet has all of the powers that a bank has within the banking network, in that the individual wallet has everything it needs to send and receive its own balances. So when the technology is fully utilized, no banks are needed. However, may there be a sort of a transitionary time in which the ledger that's being used most primarily is as a back end for banks, and it's not really decentralized, but rather it's just a centralized company. Yeah, that might happen, but all I'm saying is there's no economic reason for banks to continue to be used in the long run, because there's no reason to keep their lights on and keep paying their employees.
It's funny that you mentioned Ripple. I do believe that a lot of the banks, the banking system is invested in Ripple. And it's very strange that you're talking about this announcement that came out and how we don't need banks anymore. And I look at the central banks, I look at the banking system, and they always want to stay in power. They want to control the currency. And I know the cryptocurrency market, well, that's decentralized and they really can't control it. And this is, I think, going to be a problem for them. And I don't know how this whole thing is going to work out because, using a cryptocurrency where it's not a Federal Reserve note or a euro or anything like that, and you're holding it outside of the banking system. You might get paid from your employer one day using cryptocurrency. Then you might take that and use it to pay for goods and services. All of this would be outside of the banking system. And this is going to be a problem for those individuals in power who have these huge corporate banking systems. I mean, do you see that?
Some people have left the banking industry to join cryptocurrency because they see it as the future. And so rather than, try to fight it, they think I would really just like to profit from this instead. A perfect example is the CEO of the Dash core development team. He's not the CEO of Dash, obviously, but we employ a development team of between 20 and 40 people to develop the code base of Dash and to take us in the direction that we want to go, which is the end consumer, which is the person who was first really dazzled by PayPal and found great value from PayPal. We would like to be used by that consumer. And his name is Ryan Taylor. He's the head of the Dash core development team. And as recently as only 3 years ago, he was an analyst at a hedge fund that dealt entirely with the legacy payments industry. And just through his own research, he thought, my goodness, I think this cryptocurrency thing is likely the future. What's more, I think that Dash is probably doing the most things right at this time. And he, set down his, I'm sure it was a sizable salary, and joined Dash 2 years ago. And so, in as much as there may be some people who want to attempt to kind of skew cryptocurrencies to somehow make them, make banks work more profitably. Best of luck to them, right? May the best system win. There are also those who don't see the need to fight and have just simply joined up.
Now, I was listening to one of your videos and you used the term unbanked. And I actually like the term unbanked. And that means you don't deal with the banks at all. Is that what you mean by that?
Yes. I was rather intrigued by I think the excellent phrase, be your own bank, that some early Bitcoiners were using. I guess this was around 2013, early 2014. And I just decided to take that to the test. So I closed, all of my bank accounts. And I've been unbanked, I guess since early 2014.
And you're able to survive using what, the cryptocurrency market?
Yeah. So my two forms of money, yes, are Dash and then paper cash, paper dollars. And it's been that way for years now. It's not always convenient. I don't know that I would even recommend it. And if I were not literally betting that Dash or something like Dash is going to be more useful in the years to come, I might even reopen a bank account because it's not the most convenient thing. Like I can't even tell you how many economic transactions online require a credit card. And if not a credit card, they only take PayPal. And what do you have to use PayPal? A bank account. So I won't even try to pretend like I'm not boxed out of, many things. But, there are workarounds. For example, a lot of people want some Dash. And so they'll be like, hey, Amanda, I'll cover your internet bill if you'll pay me Dash. And so that's what we do. Or there are also websites which will book flights and hotels for you in exchange for cryptocurrency. And so that's how I've been able to travel to several different continents without a bank account, this sort of thing.
I mean, we're talking about Dash, we're talking about Bitcoin. What's the difference between Dash and Bitcoin?
So Dash was first created 3 years ago, in early 2014, I believe it was January. And actually, it was created as a result of a developer named Evan Duffield. He's from Phoenix, Arizona. He approached Bitcoin's core developers with some ideas about how Bitcoin transactions could be made private, because they're currently not, and they don't look to ever be, right? Like if I know your Bitcoin address because either you've told me what it is, or hey, maybe I sent you a payment or you sent me a payment, from that moment on, I will know that is your Bitcoin address, and I'll be able to audit what happened to that address before and what that address does afterward. And that causes you to lose a great measure of privacy. And so Evan Duffield approached Bitcoin's core developers a number of years ago and said, hey, I have some ideas about how we could make Bitcoin transactions private. And they just were not at all interested in hearing him out or working with him. And so he decided to, what's in the code world called fork. He decided to fork Bitcoin, which is to say that he took a copy of Bitcoin's code base and began working on it himself and tweaking it. And hence was Dash born. And 3 years later, and many more features than just privacy later, we are now at a $1 billion market cap. Yeah, if I may briefly tell you the main differentiators other than privacy of transactions.
Sure.
We are also able to offer what, again, in the crypto world is called an instant confirmation. And we are the only top cryptocurrency that is able to do so. And I imagine it's only a matter of time until people figure this out, because it's rather important for commerce that once I've sent you a payment, that you, the merchant, have immediate certainty of payment. Because if you don't, what is entirely possible in all of these other big cryptocurrencies is I can do to you what's called a double spend. And that means I send the broadcast of the payment to you. You give me the whatever it was, the ice cream sandwich, the hotel room, the bicycle, whatever it is I've bought from you. And then I leave with the product, and I then do some fancy computer commands. And if I do it quickly enough, I can send that payment back to myself, and it will disappear from your wallet within minutes. And you are now left without a payment and without the ice cream sandwich. That's called a double spend. You can absolutely do it in Bitcoin today. You can do it less easily in other cryptocurrencies today. And Dash is the only top crypto that has solved that problem. So you could say we have a marketing problem in that most people don't know this. We're working on that. And then I would say our last key differentiator is that we are entirely self-funded, which is to say that we don't send all of our newly created coins to miners, because we realize that miners are just one class of employee that we need. As I mentioned to you earlier, we also send a portion of our newly created coins to our full nodes. And we also send a portion of our newly created coins to everybody else we need to make our network work. That is to say, we pay full-time developers. No other cryptocurrency pays full-time developers. They seek grants or they seek donations. They have foundations upon which they are completely reliant. In fact, we call it our treasury. That is our portion of newly created coins that we can pay for development. Our treasury has so much more money than even the Bitcoin Foundation. And so it's this treasury that allows us to remain independent and not have to sort of curry favor with deep-pocketed interests in the hopes that they give us development grants.
Are cryptocurrencies safe? Because a lot of people are very nervous and they're worried about having the cryptocurrency where, they can't hold it. They don't feel it. It's like you don't have paper money or you don't have silver or gold or, it's out on the internet. You don't really know where it is. And if there is some type of internet outage or there's a cyber attack or anything like that, are cryptocurrencies safe?
That's a great question, Dave. And I've given this particular question a good deal of thought. And what I've come to conclude is that, okay, so in the case of an internet outage, like you talk about, I really think that we would pretty much just be back to where we are now, which is cryptocurrencies can be represented on paper. There is such a thing as a paper wallet. I've owned one before. And what a paper wallet contains is all of the information needed to send a transaction back on the ledger once you're back online. So that is to say, it contains a public address and a private key. And it can contain any amount of Dash. This paper wallet could contain 1/4 of a Dash. It could contain 1 million Dash. In essence, it's like a paper bill, like a banknote or something. And so if there were something as massively horrendous as a global internet outage, and we weren't already just dead from starvation, if we were all, like, hey, no, we can still make it, we just need a medium of exchange. Well, if we had been using a cryptocurrency like Dash, the units can still be represented on paper with a public address and a private key. And we could simply circulate them like we do paper money now. And we would be in no better or worse position in that we would never know if the bills were counterfeit. Just like now, we never know if the bills are counterfeit. And also, we would be in the same situation in that we wouldn't know the rate of inflation, right? Like some guy could just, be in his basement printing up an unlimited number of these Dash paper wallets, just like any, bank today can print up an unlimited number of our current paper money. And so really, we would just be back to our current square one, in my view.
Is Dash working on something where Dash can be used in stores? It can be used where employers pay you in Dash. Are they working on something like that right now?
Yes, they are quite actively, I believe, because we are of the belief that, and I know I'm of the belief in particular, that without achieving a sort of money status, without being useful as a medium of exchange, I don't know that the costs of the infrastructures required to run these ledger networks, I don't know that they would actually end up being economically feasible, and they might just, drop off, which is to say that, okay, so as I had mentioned before, the size of these ledgers, we're talking many megabytes, soon moving into the terabytes. And so that is an electricity bill. Certainly miners have massive electricity bills because they're running specialized computers for their nodes. And so if obviously we will leave this speculation stage, and if once we've left it, the tokens, the coins that we are paying those miners in, and that we're paying those nodes in, if those coins haven't become useful to buy things, I don't know that we can reasonably expect to keep those people, or for those people to keep their expensive computers running for us all the time. And so we absolutely must achieve money status in our view. And so something that our founder, Evan Duffield, I think quite wisely did, is that a couple of years ago, he sat down with his mother and said, Mother, how about you try out this Dash wallet for me? Tell me what you think. And the Dash wallet currently functions like pretty much every other cryptocurrency wallet, which is to say that it's a complete nightmare. Using cryptographic addresses that look something like X492G7BTYU, that is how cryptocurrencies currently work. And it's just a nightmare. I mean, you can see like the mild horror on people's faces when you point out that long cryptographic address and you tell them that's their address. And then if they get one number or one letter wrong, they won't receive the payment or they won't send it correctly. And so naturally, Evan saw this very expected reaction from his mother as well. And he realized that in order for this technology to have even the hopes of becoming used as a payment system a la PayPal or Venmo or whatever, that it absolutely had to feel like those services. And so the question then became, can we possibly modify this technology, which relies upon cryptography? Can we possibly make it feel like these centralized services are able to make their services feel? Meaning, the reason that PayPal can have this, fantastic interface and this fantastic experience is because they're holding your money. So Evan's question was, can we have that same experience, but still allow every single one of our customers to hold their own money? That's a technological feat, is what I'm talking about. And so he came up with some rather detailed blueprints, and they've been in active execution for the past year. And if I'm told correctly, we should be releasing the alpha version of this software within a number of months. It's being called Evolution, Dash Evolution.
So this will allow people, I've seen the paper wallets. It's very difficult for me. I mean, when I look at it, maybe for people who have experience with it, but when you look at it, it doesn't look like a dollar bill. It doesn't look like anything. It doesn't look like a credit. I mean, there's just a lot of string of numbers with the QR code and it just looks very confusing. You don't really know how much you have on there because you can't see anything. So having this type of system where people can actually use it like today's currency, I think that will be a benefit and push the cryptocurrencies even further. Now, my next question here is, if we get to the point where we're bypassing the Federal Reserve note, the dollar, and we're getting paid in cryptocurrency, let's say Dash, and we hold that, and then we go to a store and we buy, bread, milk, and then we go to someplace else or online and we spend the cryptocurrency there and we get paid again from our employer. Are we completely bypassing the tax codes because we're not dealing in the dollar anymore? Because what's taxed today is any gains that you make on any investment. If you get income using the Federal Reserve note. Has anyone discussed that in your organization?
Well, the tax situation depends entirely on where you live and how you choose to comply with tax laws anyway. Because even getting paid in dollars now, it's still largely up to you to go through the process of paying taxes on those dollars. And it would be no different with a cryptocurrency. It would still be up to you to go out of your way to pay the taxes on them. I believe that if we're talking United States only, it's a little awkward right now in that I think the IRS said that they classified cryptocurrency as a capital good. And so capital goods are taxed differently from money. And so, that's a sort of, that's probably why, if what they said is true, the IRS came out with some sort of announcement like 2 weeks ago. They said that last year, like less than 1,000 people declared cryptocurrency holdings on their tax forms. And so I suppose I can see why that would be the case if people are attempting to use them as money, but they're taxed in a way that makes them onerous to use as money. I guess I can understand why that's happening. Um, but these sorts of like taxing seems to be a thing that comes after money. It's like a result of a monetary system. So I would imagine that if the market at large ends up finding any of these cryptocurrencies exceptionally useful and really takes to it and like you said, Dave, supplants their former currency with it, I imagine that whatever sort of taxing people want is something that can come up later, that will arise, and maybe it'll look different from the taxing that goes on today.
Yeah, because I'm looking to get out of the taxing. I'm looking to say, listen, this is not part of the monetary system. This is not a Federal Reserve note. I'm getting paid in something completely different. And the central bank, the Federal Reserve, which is really not part of the U.S. government, but you don't have control over this cryptocurrency. It's not part of your system. So it's really outside of your system. So I shouldn't have to pay any taxes on this whatsoever. Because first of all, I'm not transferring it into dollars and receiving an income from it. And I'm using it to pay for certain items. And I'm completely separate and apart from their system, because the Federal Reserve, that's where the creation of their currency is coming from, which is the Federal Reserve note, where they create it out of thin air and then they loan it to the government with interest attached. And I'm thinking that these cryptocurrencies, and why they're so nervous and afraid of them, is that we can bypass the entire system. It's almost like unbanking. Like, you don't want to deal with banks where there's no need for banks. Well, there's no need for the dollar at that point. I mean, because there's no banks, there's no dollar. We use cryptocurrency and there's no taxes attached to it. That's just my thinking.
Well, like I said, Dave, if what the IRS says is true, you're likely in good company, in that it sounds like most people aren't paying taxes on these things.
So let me ask you, where are you going, your company, and where do you think cryptocurrencies, where do you think everything is going? How do you think it's going to change the world?
Well, to me, this seems like as just a sort of technological evolution that we humans seem to tend to want to propagate. We went from a horse and carriage to, the first horseless carriage, and planes, trains, automobiles, etc. And so to me, it seems like this is just a sort of a natural evolution, that our medium of exchange would go digital. And I definitely don't have a sort of utopian rainbow worldview of it. I think that should cryptocurrency be widely adopted, I think that it will bring many, many benefits, many new opportunities. And I am sure that it will bring new problems and new barriers. Just to make a sort of elementary example, I mean, how many people die in car crashes every day? It's horrific just to think about it. But cars are so useful to us that we also wouldn't really dream of giving them up either. And so I imagine that it will be something much like that, new opportunities compounded with new problems. And certainly I guess it will be interesting to see how long this sort of potential gold standard remains the money itself, and not just what new monies are backed by. Because I'm talking about actual gold, right? Like, if I'm not much mistaken, and I am no historian whatsoever, but I think that there was a time when gold itself was used as money. And then it shifted and it became rather the thing that is kept and held, and that money substitutes were issued upon. And then more recently, we had the problem of inflation, where the money substitutes were no longer issued upon that scarce commodity, although we pretended like they were. And so if cryptocurrency becomes a thing, it is very much like gold 2.0 in that, well, at least among the good cryptocurrencies, you do know their exact supply at all times. Actually, that's even better than gold. You know their exact supply at all times. And what's more, you know what the inflation rate, if any, is going to be. Again, that is slightly better than gold because we don't actually know how much gold, someone's going to mine tomorrow. And so, how long it's feasible to use that gold and gold only with no money substitutes, versus, maybe there comes a time when we go back to our old tricks and, it's more either more convenient or more economically feasible or whatever to issue money substitutes with the cryptocurrency as the backing. It'll be interesting to see if history repeats itself.
Amanda, thank you very much for being on the X22 Report Spotlight. If people are interested, how can they get in touch? Where should they go to find out more about Dash?
Go to YouTube and type in Dash Digital Cash. The first thing it'll bring up is my channel. And I have, I would invite you, if you're pretty new to all of this stuff and you find yourself wanting a greater understanding of just how the technology underpinning all of this stuff works, I invite you to view a 6-video series that I made. It can be watched in under an hour, and it's called Dash School. And you'll find that on my channel, as well as many other videos about how Dash works.
Great. I'm going to put all the links at the bottom of this video, so it'll make it very easy for everyone. You just click on the link. It'll bring you right over to the YouTube channel so you can see all the videos. Amanda, once again, thank you very much for being on the X22 Report Spotlight. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Dave.